was supposed
Okay,
to.
so my journey to becoming a 2-time world champion fitness model. This wasn't how I planned it to be. Hold on. I can't even see. I don't know what to put my face to. Right, I'm going to put myself over there, but I swear it's going to switch from side to side. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Zoey Wright. I'm a 2-time world champion fitness model with one of the fastest growing fitness modeling federations in Europe and a sponsored athlete with USN. I'm the CEO of my online coaching business, Transform with Zoey, and I get to help hundreds of women around the world transform their minds and bodies through the power of exercise, whether it be to get on stage or whether it to be just to kind of just get fit and enjoy exercise. So let's, I guess, just take you back from before I was even diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So about 10 to 11 years ago, my life looked completely different. I spent a lot of time partying. It's all I knew how to do. This was probably because I didn't really enjoy school that much. So, you know, when I was growing up, I took part in some form of exercise because studying wasn't my strongest point. I struggled with dyslexia throughout school, and that wasn't discovered until I was 18 years old, and I just grew up feeling very misunderstood, spent a lot of time suspended or in isolation, and I actually only came out of school with 1 GCSE, which was actually not in PE, it was actually in just food tech, which was very funny. So unsure and feeling very demotivated on where I was in life, I returned back to playing sport because there was a couple of years in my life where I was going through a really hard time at home. My parents had broken up. My dad was a very toxic person. I had a really bad relationship with him. And my turning point was going back into exercise. And it was the one thing that I found any sort of solace in. And I was fairly good at physical activity. So I actually kind of bucked my ideas up. I managed to get my grades that I needed to, and I went back to college and I studied sports development and coaching, which was really, really fun because, you know, everything seemed to be falling into place. You know, I was surrounded by a good bunch of people. I started going to the gym regularly. I was starting to fall in love with weightlifting, and I was finally, you know, actually good at something. You know, I spent 2 years in college before I actually secured a place at university, which I never thought was going to happen. And I finally felt motivated by education. And this was something that I had missed out on throughout all of my childhood school days, because I spent, you know, my life through school up to that point in a very bad mindset towards anything to do with education. I kind of was like, you know, I'm done with it. And then unfortunately, whilst I was enjoying college, playing football regularly and spending time with my partner at the time, socializing with friends, like everything seemed to be falling into place for me for once in my life, I was actually hiding all the symptoms that come with inflammatory bowel disease. I spent pretty much the sort of duration of college really struggling with inflammatory bowel disease. And I kept telling myself, as you always do when you don't know what it is, it'll go away. But unfortunately, I think the stress of my college exams coming up, I ruptured my ACL ligament in playing football, so I could no longer play football because I was heading towards 2 major knee surgeries to reconstruct my ACL ligament. My colitis became unbearable, and obviously at the time I didn't know what it was. So it wasn't actually until I was on a bus home from college, which is such a bizarre story, and how sort of I actually got diagnosed with colitis. And I saw a you know, one of the sort of those like promotions on the side of a bus saying about bowel cancer and blood in your stool. And at that point, I was going to the toilet about 40 times a day, like trying to hide this illness that I had. Like I was losing weight, like by sort of a really rapid state at that point. People thought it was just because I was going to the gym and obviously I was exercising regularly, but really it was because I was really, really poorly at the time. I just didn't know how poorly I was. So thankfully, when I went to the doctor, because obviously that advertisement on the bus actually put like sort of I guess, encouraged me to ring the doctor, because I was actually really worried about my health. And I thought, oh my God, have I potentially got bowel cancer? Like, what's wrong with me? I'd never heard of Crohn's colitis at that point. So I rang the doctor. I was very lucky to be sent to the doctor. The doctor actually kind of picked up straight away it was either Crohn's or colitis, which I know is a very, very rare thing when it comes to inflammatory bowel disease and being diagnosed. I went for a colonoscopy, and then I was, given the label ulcerative colitis, which, at the time I didn't know anything about. I was very new to all of this. I was sent away with some tablets, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be good. These tablets are gonna help me, and I'm gonna be fit and well, and everything's gonna be cushy again in life. Unfortunately, just 4 weeks after being diagnosed, even though I was given some medication, my health deteriorated pretty rapidly. I spent 4 weeks in hospital, which felt like a lifetime, pretty much fighting for my life. And at that point, when they showed me, I always struggle with talking about this part of my story, because I think it's one of the hardest parts of my story. With everything that I also had to go through, with obviously going for the surgeries, I always found this part of my story very unsettling, because I was very, very vulnerable. I always feel like everyone who I speak to when they've been diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease always say that the first time they were told they had inflammatory bowel disease is always a really triggering moment for them, because you're normally quite unwell as well at that point. And one thing that really sticks out to me was the thought of dying seemed like a better option to me at the time than actually living with an ostomy bag, because I went into hospital, feeling like a really strong, capable female, like the whole world like ahead of me. Like, I was actually finally getting on track with what I wanted to do in life. And I was being told that you either have a bag, or you could potentially die, or even if you go for the surgery, you might not make it. And it was an extremely hard time for me to wrap my head around. I did come out of hospital 2 days before Christmas, and I remember I'd lost just over 12 kilos. My mum's a very petite woman, and I had to actually wear her clothes. She's very, very small, for those who've seen my mum. I was very overwhelmed with the fact that, one, I was alive, and two, I came out without an ostomy bag. But there was something deep down always told me that I would eventually have to have an ostomy bag due to the severity of my colitis. And I was informed from a surgeon. I remember he came and spoke to me and was just like, you're not going to be able to avoid this forever. So just prepare yourself for in the future that it's going to be a chance that you're going to have the surgery. And I guess, when I came out, I slowly adapted to everything that was happening to me. But I was determined not to let it define who I was. And I wanted to get my body back to where it once was. So it was strong, it was capable. And I wanted to also finish my degree, because obviously I just started university at this time. I finally managed to get my knee surgeries done. I finally started getting things back on track. I was on a cocktail of medications to try and obviously keep my colitis in remission. But I really found solace at that moment in time in the gym. Like, it was my therapy. Even if I wasn't feeling 100% that day, it was just the fact that I could go in and I could be in my own little bubble, put my music on, and I could just train. Because at the time I wasn't able to play football anymore due to my knee surgeries. But obviously, my colitis became gradually worse and worse, unfortunately. And when it came to just after a week after my graduation, I actually had the surgery. So, like I said on the screen, I would be lying if I said living with colitis before my surgery wasn't frustrating. I spent a lot of my time at university, which is supposed to be a really good time in my life, in a hospital bed, studying, writing essays, and then trying to find medications, and then being heartbroken when they didn't work for me. So in 2014, just after finishing my degree in sports rehabilitation, I had a meeting with my consultant, and I decided to, get rid of my large intestine, because you know, I realized to start truly living, I had to overcome the fear of the ostomy bag. And by no means like is this an easy decision to make. You know, I was very determined not to have it from the very beginning, but it was just really at that point, there was nothing else I could do for my illness, and there was nothing else I could do for myself. And to live the life that I wanted to live, I needed to face that fear of having the ostomy bag. So literally a week after my graduation, I had my surgery, and I actually got my certification, like sort of certificate for my degree, actually when I was in hospital. So my mum brought me in, that kind of brought me up for the day when I was in buckets of pain, as you always are after a surgery. So I made this mad decision when I was actually lying in this hospital bed that I was going to step on stage in a tiny bikini in front of hundreds of people. I don't know. I don't know if my parents and partner at the time thought I was crazy, but they were really supportive of me. And over 10 months, I obviously had to wait for 12 weeks to, you know, recover from the surgery, get the all clear. My stoma nurses were incredibly supportive when I said to them I wanted to go on stage and I wanted to go back to weight training. They gave me some loads of different support where I'd like to obviously try out. I actually ended up going for the vanilla blush support pants because I found support bouts would like roll up. So I found my shape worked better with the vanilla blush hernia support wear. I gradually got back into weight training, and yeah, I stepped on stage in my first ever fitness and bodybuilding show, and I won first place in transformation of figure. And I guess from that moment, the direction of my life completely changed. Like, it was such an exhilarating feeling going on stage. And I always say this to people now, like I've won overall world titles, like, you know, the best title you can get. But this show was just, it felt like I won everything in the world, because for me, the feeling is just irreplaceable. Like it tops every overall world title I've won. Just the simple fact that I got onto stage when I was so afraid of having this ostomy bag. And it was definitely one of the sort of proudest moments of my life. So my competing sort of, oh, where am I? Yeah, so my competing journey, shall I say, has been a bit of a rocky one, because in 2015, obviously I went on stage. I qualified for the World Championships, where they were going to be awarding people their pro status, and also you had the chance of an overall world title. Well, I was, I think, 6 weeks away from the World Championships, and it didn't go quite to plan, as you can tell by the picture on the screen, because I actually ate a runner bean. I know that you're not supposed to eat runner beans. I ate a runner bean because I couldn't get any asparagus. This is actually the story. And I actually got a blockage from that runner bean, and I had my bowel twisted in 3 different places, and I needed emergency surgery to obviously remove the scar tissue that twisted my bowel around, which wasn't very comfortable at all, I have to say. And I've never looked at a runner bean the same way ever again. It was up to that point, I did think, should I eat these runner beans, or should I just wait till asparagus to be back in stock? And it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm hungry, I've got 6 weeks to go, I just need some sort of green vegetable to go with my meal stock. And I've just never regretted something so bad in my life. So obviously I missed out on my pro status that year. So I had to go back to training. Obviously I had to recover from that surgery. And again, you know, I was very afraid coming back from my second abdominal surgery. So I had to make sure I was really engaging my core. I had to make sure that I was really focused on that mind to muscle connection, ensuring that I was performing exercises properly. So I had to go for that real rehabilitation status again. It did help, obviously, studying sports rehab in university, so I had that knowledge there as well. Moving on to 2016, I went to a qualifier show 3 weeks from the Worlds. I actually got my pro status, and then I went to the World Championships at the O2 Arena. I got first placed in figure, but I only took second overall, and I literally just missed out, and I was so gutted because I thought, oh my God, I've trained for this so much and I've missed out on this first place. So obviously being so competitive as I am, I went back in 2017. And that was at that point, I actually changed to do fitness modeling instead of figure. And I actually became the overall world title holder, which was really exciting. Moving on from there, obviously, for those who follow my journey, I now have a J pouch. So I loved my stoma Dory. That was my name for my stoma. You know, she gave me my life back. And as a result of my illness, I was able to unlock a potential and talent I never thought I'd have. And I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason. I really found my purpose in life and found my solace in this journey. You know, my stoma made me healthy. My stoma made me fit. My stoma, I'm alive. You know, I really loved my stoma, but unfortunately I was having some really bad issues, as many do, with their rectum stumps with colitis. And in 2018, I opted to be put on the 12-month waiting list for the creation of my J pouch. So I had the option to go either for my J pouch or to make my stoma permanent. And I did weigh up the pros and cons for that. But the what if my J pouch works, I knew would obviously, it would kill me, like not knowing if it would work or not. So I went for the J pouch option, and I always thought to myself, and I still think to myself now, if anything went wrong with my J pouch, I would happily go back to my ostomy, because my stoma was really, really good. My life was really good. I was healthy. It was nothing like living with colitis. So I made the decision to go for a J pouch, which was a bittersweet decision, because obviously, you know, of the start of my sort of journey with colitis, I couldn't bear thinking of living with an ostomy bag. But then I was there sitting wondering what it was going to be like living without my stoma. Like, I couldn't imagine life without my stoma again. So I had my J pouch created in January 2019. And then I had to wait till April 2019 to have the takedown surgery. Now, the journey for the first year of my J pouch is, I'm not going to lie, it was not an easy ride. I did suffer from pouchitis quite a fair bit. I had to go on quite a few courses of antibiotics. Twinning the antibiotics with a good probiotic that I found enabled me to put that pouchitis into remission, and touch wood, 3 years on, I have been fine, and my pouch is doing really well. But I will say this now, despite having my, oh sorry, I forgot to put that one on. That was that was my little unicorn blanket my friend gave me in hospital, and that was obviously me getting my first seeing my stomach without my stoma bag, which was a really weird moment for me. What I was going to say was, despite having such a rocky first year with my J pouch, there were some really small wins, or actually fairly big wins I had in the first 12 months of having my J pouch. One of them was going to a Pink concert just 8 weeks post op, which was something that I was very nervous about, but because my pouchitis wasn't like anything like living with colitis, it was kind of sometimes the opposite way, like I couldn't go to the toilet, or then I was going to the toilet too much. Kind of everyone's different with it. I was able to go to a concert, which was very cool. I went back to lifting and teaching classes around I think it was between 8 and 12 weeks. I think I went back to teaching around 10 weeks, but I went back to like lifting the sort of weights I normally lift at around 12 to 15 weeks. I went to Tenerife for my friend, and that was a very, very boozy holiday. 14 weeks post pouch surgery. My surgeon wasn't very happy or too impressed with me when I said I was going to Tenerife, which was going to be quite a boozy holiday. He definitely piled me up with loads of antibiotics and told me to take one just in case every single day. But I had a really, really good time. So despite having a rocky first year of my J pouch, I was still able to have some really good times and really good moments that I remember for the rest of my life. So obviously I've not stepped on stage in 4 years, up until November 2021. So the last time I stepped on stage was in 2017, and I thought I was done. I thought, you know what, I've done what I've needed to do. I've got an overall world title. I'm very happy and very content. But there was something in me that was like, I think I've got another one potentially in me. So in November 2021, I returned to the stage after 4 years, which felt like a very bittersweet moment for me, walking onto stage without my ostomy bag, because, you know, really that's why it all started. So I managed to get my second overall world title, which I was not expecting. Obviously, you know, I want to win, and you've got to win a category and then you go for the overall world title. And I managed to get a first place in the fitness model category. And I also got a 5th place in international model, which was when I had to wear those wings and I wore my nice 2-piece dress, which was I actually really enjoyed that. I didn't think I was going to, because I'm not a very girly girl, typical girl, if that makes sense. But I really enjoyed that category. So yeah, I managed to stick to a diet for 18 weeks again, which I never thought I was going to be able to do. And do you know what, saying that, a lot of people ask me about my diet when I go into any sort of competition prep, and it's very, very high protein. And I did find my J pouch was really well behaved, eating the same foods every single day, because obviously your body gets used to what you're putting into it. So I did find my J pouch was really, really good going through that prep. The only downside I found was when I actually had to cut more of my calories, so I went into more of a deficit to obviously lose my body fat. Because I couldn't bulk my meals up with loads of vegetables, I found myself a lot hungrier than normal. So, you know, for instance, my clients now who don't have obviously an ostomy or a J pouch, they would bulk their food up with loads of vegetables and like asparagus and cucumber and all that sort of stuff. And obviously with me, I still have to be very mindful of my portion size with vegetables. Carbs and protein and fats are fine. It's just vegetables. It's all the good stuff, as you know. Our sort of digestive tract doesn't like them. And obviously going back to 2015 when I had a run of being, I didn't really want to go into that sort of, I didn't want to cause myself any sort of bowel twists again. So one thing I have taken away from my experience so far with my illness is I have been able to do so many cool things. It's unlocked so many different experiences that I never thought I'd be able to achieve as a direct result of being diagnosed with colitis. And like I said, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, I'm a judge for Pure Elite as well. So one of the cool things I get to do is I get to go and actually work for Pure Elite, and I get to actually judge at shows. I actually featured in the Muscle and Fitness UK magazine at one time with my ostomy bag as the hot bod feature, which I thought was freaking awesome. I got to meet Ant Middleton. I've still got his telephone number, which I think is quite cool. And I get to be around so many different people that I never would have met before in my life. Like I would never even have the experience to do this today. So there's so many positives that has come from a negative situation, I always find. And moving on to, I guess, my life now, since obviously being diagnosed, I'm enjoying life. I'm really, really enjoying what I do as a career, despite having my setbacks. I've recently become engaged to my partner, Joel, who I met sea swimming in 2020. Like, how bizarre is that? And we plan on getting married very soon. I haven't actually shared this online, so this is the first time I share it. I'm not actually sharing it on my public profiles or anything until after the wedding. We're actually getting married in May. So a very, very sort of low-key, like hardly anyone's going to be their wedding. It's going to be at a church, then we're just going to have a meal, and then we're just going to be going to bed properly because we spent £400 in the hotel room. I recently went on my first solo holiday to Alicante, and do you know what? I feel like the confidence that I've gained from, I guess, my ability to find a positive in the negative of being ill is really giving me the confidence to grow and become the person I am today. And I have a really good support network around me. And I'm just really, really thankful that, you know, touch wood, my illness is in remission right now. And I'm very, very thankful for good health. And I guess what I want you to take from my talk today is that I want you to see the true beauty of life and how important it is to love your body, flaws and all, because we only get one life, and it's for living and it's for enjoying it. So if you take one thing away from this talk, it's just to be happy with where we're at and that we get to see another day. And that was me. That was my life in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Zoe. That is fantastic. I know I've heard your story before, but I love that. I really do. I think we've all got our own stories, haven't we, that bring us to where we are now, but yours is truly transformational.
Thank you so much. Hang on, let me just stop sharing. Oh, I managed to do it.
So, well done. Apologies, I couldn't be in here right at the start. I was having of everything. I was the one getting the tech problem. So yeah, really appreciate you talking for us today. And I know sport is a big part in a lot of people's lives, and a lot of the people we've brought in here today have all got sport, or some have got sporting backgrounds. We've got Melissa, who's joined us with she's now sponsored by IA, and we will be sharing some photos of her. She's now wearing our brand both on her silks and on her horse, because she's a show jumper. So you know, we're going to have a few quick questions there. Matt as well, yours is more martial arts, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And Danny as a PT, and again, more weights, I understand.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, and mine obviously is swim, bike, run, triathlon. So I think for those of us who've got sporting backgrounds, I would just ask, did you ever do this before you had your surgeries? I didn't, but I wonder about the rest of you, what you were doing before you had surgeries.
Okay, yeah, I did karate for years and years, really, and it's about 19 years now. It's 20 years this year, but I found I've become really ill with the colitis, which kind of stopped me going any further in competitions and things like that, really. So it was similar kind of story. It was great to kind of have the op in a way, because now I could kind of get back into training. I wasn't just a passenger. I was actually effectively taking part a lot more, and I still do the teaching as well. So it's really good to give back. I find that a really, really big thing when you've been through all this, is to be able to give back, because you can see in other people that they're taking from you. Oh, actually, if he can do it, I can do it. If Zoe can do it, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could try that. Maybe I could do 5 minutes exercise and see how I get on. And that's just really, really beneficial to see in others for me. But, you know, I did find it really, really helpful, to be honest. Once you reach a stage of remission, really, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely completely relate to that for you. Completely, it's the giving back. I think when we've lived through what we've lived, and we can see that we can help by showing others what can be done, is a big part of that. I don't know, personal journey is all part of it, really. Melissa, you were show jumping before, and I think your surgery was an emergency as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So mine was an emergency from 6 weeks from being diagnosed to having my colon removed, and that was 4 weeks, 3 weeks that were in hospital. So it was all quite fast, and at the time I didn't even know what stoma was, and they'd explained to me, obviously I consented to the surgery, but I didn't have a clue what stoma was still, until I woke up with one and just looked down and thought, okay, that's fine. I'm alive, whatever they did. So I didn't really mind what it was, and had no idea what I could do after it, because I didn't have a clue what had just happened to me, really. And it took me a few days to process that, obviously, because we're on so many painkillers and don't really know what's going on. But it has actually in a way made me more confident in my abilities now with what I'm doing, because I think, well, if you can overcome that, surely you can do whatever is in front of you on a horse or whatever. So it's made me a lot more confident, strangely, and body confident as well, thinking, well, your body's quite remarkable for what it's done rather than what it looks like. So quite proud of it. So.
Massively, definitely. And Dan as well, you were doing this before you were unwell and had your surgery.
Yeah, I mean, always from a young age had an interest in any form of training, weightlifting, that kind of thing, but never really knew what I was doing. I took it seriously until I had a reason to, and I suppose having the surgery and the illness gave me that reason in one respect, because you had to regain weight, you had to live a healthier lifestyle and look at things very, very differently. So I suppose we're talking 17 years now, but for the first even 7 or 8, I enjoyed dipping in and out of it. And it's only really been the last 4 or 5 I've taken it a bit more seriously, I suppose. Really, ironically, pretty much since I met Zoey, because that was 5 or 6 years ago, and from then onwards, trained very differently, a lot heavier, and like you say, I enjoy the heavier side of it more than the cardio or the lighter weights. More into the powerlifting thing. But with me, it's more try and find out and see how you go. Push each boundary as much as you can, and then take a step back if you hit a brick wall and try and find a way around it, really.
Yeah, definitely. I guess so. You were the same with that that ethos. What can I do until I stop and can't do it? Yeah.
It's always, you've always got to be mindful. Like I was very mindful with my stone, and I'm still very mindful now, obviously post J-pouch surgery, because there is some weakness there. But I think you find yourself becoming a lot more in tune with your body when you've gone through something like we all have. Yeah. So I think, as long as you've got good form, as long as you're very careful what you do, as long as you know what you're doing, there's nothing that can stop you. And that's, like I said speaking to Matt and Dan just before this the live seminar started, was the contrast between when I had post-surgery in 2015 to 2019 was completely different on the attitude of actually lifting weights after surgery. So when I first had surgery, my surgeon was like, oh no free weights, just cardio, not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that. My stoma nurses knew that I was going to do what I was going to do anyway, and actually helped me get some support wear. But there was no sort of, what I found in the sort of welcome pack after surgery was like welcome pack, like it's like going into a new life. But the sort of recovery pack, should I say, you normally get with the sort of the samples and stuff. There was nothing on lifting. There was nothing really there. And there was also nothing there on like sort of intimacy as well, which I found really bizarre, because I was like, oh God, like I have to ask this question as well now. Whereas in 2019, they had all different angles, and they also had really young people in the front of the brochures as well, which really, like, obviously I'd been through the process of having a stoma before, but it was so much more refreshing in 2019 than it was in 2015, because it was very sort of, right, that's it, life's over, you can't lift anything, don't even lift a kettle. It was very sort of generalized information you got, whereas now I feel like a lot more research has been about, a lot more people are talking, a lot more people on the internet these days, and people are actually realizing we can actually exercise. Our life isn't over. We just have a stoma now. Like, that's it. you know your own limitations. As long as you don't go outside of that, you're cushy. You're fine.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, for the other guests in here, has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask? I know we've gone over a little bit, but we're rolling into the coffee break at the moment, so you're welcome to stay for a couple of more minutes. But has anybody got any questions they'd like to put to any of the people here who are sporting? If you can stick your little reaction hand up in the air on your screen. Let's see the reaction button at the bottom of the screen. Wave. No. One thing I would say, and I'm sure this goes for the rest of you as well, is about nutrition with sport as well. That seems to be a big part of it. And I know people worry about what they can eat, after surgery. But did you find, again, you were very, very cautious after your surgeries? Or did you find with sport you had a far better understanding of your bodies?
I'll answer that if you want. I found the generic advice, which was obviously to kind of let your body heal as such from surgery, to be really, really bad for you. So it's, if you kind of read the pamphlet, it's like you can eat biscuits, cakes, crisps, donuts, and that may sound fantastic, But when that's in your body for 6 to 8 weeks or something at a time, it's not that good. So you kind of, it's a tough balance. You don't want to end up with blockages and things like that. But at the same point, you need to be introducing some of the, what you might call the healing type foods, or, so you're getting your vitamins, your minerals, and all them trace elements, that type of stuff in your diet. And I'd definitely say just go slowly, because you're not trying to go from 0 to 5 a day. You're not trying to bang straight into that. But it might be a case of even like a low residue thing where you're having softer vegetables or something like that, and you maybe try 1, try 2 the next day, and just see how you get on. I found my energy levels helped when I could eat a little bit more veg, specifically green, really.
Yeah.
Except spinach. That's a big no-go for me.
Spinach for me is a no-go as well. Like, that's the devil.
Yeah.
That's the devil.
Yeah, Zoe is right. If that gets in your body, nah. It's like someone's turned a tap on in the wrong place.
Absolutely horrible. Hey, yeah. I think I found as well, like I mentioned in my in sort of my story, there was one thing that I found hard when I was doing any sort of show prep is like the contrast of I couldn't bulk my meals up with vegetables, and like the only vegetables that I could really tolerate, like especially with my J pouch, was cucumber and asparagus, which isn't cheap. It's quite expensive. It's like I've got a posh pouch. So, obviously when I actually went through one of my preps, I ate runner beans instead of obviously having my asparagus, which I normally would eat, but because I was so hungry, I was like, I need something green. And I played the price for it, but it is a bit of trial and error, because I always found when I first had my stoma, in the first year, should I say, that was when I had all my blockages, because I was trialing the foods that I wanted to try, and I hadn't obviously, to see whether I was going to be okay with them, whether I was not going to be okay with it. I can eat mushrooms, I can eat sweet corn now, whereas I was petrified of a mushroom and a sweet corn when I first had my bowel taken out.
You didn't have much room for them.
Yeah, different people have different setups. Different people have got different surgeries as well, so their scar tissue is going to be in different places. I think it's all about keeping a food journal. Like one of the things that I did actually before even I had surgery was keep a food journal, because I needed to find my trigger foods with my colitis. But also after surgery, I kept a little notebook of the foods that I found were okay for my stoma and the foods that were not okay for my stoma. Runner beans went directly onto the no-go, hazardous, never gonna eat that again pile, obviously. But I did find myself, when I was prepping for this show in November, I was a little bit worried about obviously increasing my vegetables, because obviously I wanted to bulk my food up. Normally day-to-day life, when I'm eating quite a carb-heavy diet and quite a high-protein diet, I kind of avoid vegetables, because obviously, J pouch, can't eat them too much. But I wanted to obviously get my greens in as well, and I did find I had to be very mindful of the portions that I put into my foods to be a bit smarter with it.
Do you find with eating more protein, it slows down your output slightly? Yeah. Or thickens it or whatnot?
I don't have to take loperamide. One of the things that my surgeon said to me when I first had my surgery, he said, I don't think you'll need any loperamide because of your high protein diet for what you do. And I eat probably say about 160 grams a day now, just day-to-day life. But when I'm on any sort of competition prep, I eat about 230 grams of protein a day, which if you're talking about like sort of portions, it's the equivalent of having like 3 chicken breasts, steak, eggs, and also whey protein. So it's quite a high protein intake. And I did find my J pouch worked really, really well on a high protein diet, because I was slowing my bowel movement down, because it takes longer to process. So you actually, one good thing about eating more protein as well is not only for like muscle building recovery, but you actually burn more calories breaking down protein in your digestive tract. So yeah, it's like magic. And
I'm really glad actually listening to that.
For longer. It keeps you fuller for longer, and I always find that I have more energy when I eat more protein. obviously carbs as well, because carbs are life.
Out of interest, have you ever done juicing and
No.
taken your vegetable in a juice or smoothie style?
I
did
haven't.
celery
I
juice
haven't.
once.
No, it didn't work.
I was a disaster.
Okay.
I didn't realise I was actually allergic to celery at the time. I stopped just in time. My arm went a really weird colour. Not
That's
everyone's
really
got that
strange.
experience.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I actually tried celery for the first time in my J pouch maybe 3 weeks ago. I was fine.
Brilliant.
It was like one of my foods I hadn't tried yet with my J pouch. Yeah. So there's still foods I'm still trying now after 3 years of having my J pouch.
Yeah.
It's a really, really weird one. I could never have apples. And I liked apples, but
I can eat apples now.
I would feel terrible that, and then
Okay.
even recently, what I'd actually just tried was peeling the skins off.
Yeah.
But instead of
it's the
having one,
skin.
I'd have two, and I was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And I was getting all the stuff in there, but it wasn't.
I couldn't have apples when I had when I had my bowel. No way.
Yeah.
Not with the skin on. But now I can eat it with my J pouch fine, which is very strange.
Very individual, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think that's really, it's also like, that's why sometimes when you have these booklets post-surgery about what to eat and stuff, I know obviously you want to give you a sort of generic sort of guideline to make sure you don't overdo it on the vegetables, but it does put people into that sort of scared state of, I can't eat that food. Like with mushrooms for me, I can eat mushrooms. I was just so afraid of eating them just in case I got blocked, because I got told when I had surgery.
You're so right on that, because on a lot of the online ostomy support groups, a lot of the questions on there will be food based. Almost like, oh, I want to try a peanut. What do you think? And it's that type of fear sometimes for a lot of people, thinking, I don't want to get a blockage, but do they? Don't they?
Yeah.
So
I think it was also, I think they also said about having smooth peanut butter instead of actual crunchy peanut butter. And I was like, oh, hell no, I love crunchy peanut butter.
Danny, do you have something you were going to add to that?
Yeah, I call it luck. I just call it everybody being different. But peanuts, apples, anything, don't bother me. Mushrooms, even. There's very, very few things. I think I've had 2 blockages in 17 years, and one of them was from bananas, and the other one was from a bounty. So literally, they're the only 2 times I've actually had serious blockages in 17 years. But I eat peanut M&Ms by the bagful. They don't bother me at all. Apples, green apples with skins on, again, not a problem. I had mushrooms yesterday. So I very rarely find a food I can't have, which is good, because sometimes I like to just pile loads and loads of weight on, depending on what kind of training I'm doing. So I can just pretty much go with what I want for that process. Getting it back off is not so simple. When that side of things, unfortunately, because you develop yourself a taste, and your body acclimatizes to all these calories, and all of a sudden you start draining it and starving at them. So, but there's very, very, very few things other than, bananas I have blended anyway in a smoothie now, so I don't take that risk with them. One doesn't bother me, but more than one in a day would do some damage to me. But anything else, I love apples, green apples. It's just never. I've had this conversation so many times with people in the. I get sworn at off people because I can eat them. People shout at me because it's like something you really want to eat and you can't. It just doesn't bother me for some reason. I don't know. Like you said, I think it's just because everybody's
popcorn.
Popcorn, not a problem. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I can eat popcorn. I ate popcorn the other day, actually.
It's one of the foods they actually say, don't eat at any cost, don't eat popcorn.
Yeah, they said that about that as well.
Popcorn.
It is down to individuals and trying everything step by step, very carefully. Yeah, I eat pretty much everything as well, but by the bags full.
It's also about, I think, hydration as well, because obviously you need some water to get things moving. So I always find if I'm not so hydrated, I will struggle with certain foods. Does that make sense? Like, especially with my stoma, I could always tell the output, like, okay, I'm a little bit dehydrated now. That's taken quite a while to come out. It's like, I'm not like a brick.
Yeah, completely.
Well, I can feel it.
I'm aware we haven't got long left of the coffee break. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Zoey for sharing your story. And I'm going to keep watching what you do going forward.
Thank you so much for having me and listening to me all, guys. Like, I really, really appreciate it.
It's fantastic. Matt, Melissa, Dan, thank you very much as well. You're all inspirational with what you're doing and helping show others what can be done as well. So we really appreciate them. So thank you all very much indeed. And I will catch up with you all online probably.
Yes. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.